Welcome back. I'm so glad you could join us again this week. And today I'm very, very excited. We've got so many cards and letters wanting to know how to paint saw blades that I've invited a special lady in today. I would like to introduce you today to a close personal friend of mine. I've known her and her husband Joe for quite a while. I'd like to introduce you today to Dorothy Dent. She comes to us right out of Missouri. Dorothy, we're so glad to have you with us today.
Thank you, Bob. I'm really glad to be here.
Well, I'm going to get off here and let you show them how to do a saw blade, and I'll be back with you at the end of the show.
Good deal. Thank you. Okay, we're going to paint a saw blade today. You know, saws come in so many different interesting shapes and sizes, and many of you at home may have a blade that you would like to paint on. If you have one, check it for rust, and if it's rusty, remove that with some sandpaper or steel wool. And then spray your blade with a metal primer. That'll keep it from rusting back through. Then spray with a flat black acrylic, and you're ready to paint. I like to start with a loose sketch that I've already put on this one, and I think they're going to show the colors that we'll be using today, and so we'll just get right on into our painting. Let's start with our sky. I like to start at the very back and move forward, and let's go in with a large bristle brush, and you want to make sure you're using a bristle brush. Let's pull the white out where we can get to it, and I like a rather soft white here. And then pick up some Prussian blue. You know, Prussian blue is really a strong color, so we don't really need a great deal. And that's rather bright, so now I'm going to add just a touch of black, and this will gray that blue right on down. Okay, get a color mixed up there, that's good. And then we'll start right up here at the top of your sky and use the bottom corner of your brush. I'm giving it a little pushing motion as I go. And the reason I like to spray these saws black is I use that black, pull that paint out a little thin in places, and that gives you a little variation in your color tones. Leave some room for some clouds. Now we're going to put a cloudy sky in. See, that part's real easy. Now we need to clean our brush, clean it real good, and dry it out. Bristle brushes tend to hold the terp, and I like to keep them rather dry. And then we'll pick up some white again, and I'm gathering this on one flat side of the brush. Then turn your brush so the paint is to the top, and we'll come right on in and just puff up a real nice little cloud. Now the paint's heavier up here at the top of your cloud, and then as you're losing some of that paint out of the brush, pull some of the blue into the base of your cloud. Now here can be another one, so I'm going to gather a little bit more paint again. Now come right up here again, and here's another one. Have to kind of watch, or you have a tendency to work your clouds in long rows, and we don't really care about that. Let's come right on down toward the ground line and keep your brush more or less moving back and forth across the base of the sky. Now there's a nice soft puffy cloud, and that wasn't hard at all. Now let's go into that same color and darken it just a little bit more. A little more blue and just a little more black. Again, it just kind of works into the brush here. And let's give ourselves a little distance back in here. Hold your brush, kind of sideways, and just pat very loosely to get a suggestion of some real soft trees way off in the distance. You know how they look kind of blue-green when you see things from afar. Just right in through there. Now I want to get rid of that white that's in the brush, and I'm going to clean it again. And we will go into a darker color because we've got some foliage that will be coming right on down into the foreground. So we're going back into our black and our blue and get a color that's just somewhat darker. Now, back again, and this time I'm on the bottom corner of the brush, and I'm just going to puff in this foliage. Up toward the top, you can let it look a little bit loose. Come around your building. I kind of leave a bit of space there for the building. If you get over into it some, it isn't going to hurt a thing. Now we're just going to let that color set up a bit, and we're going to work on our building. Let it dry just a bit. Now let's go to a small sable brush. Something in a medium size is fine, doesn't have to be too tiny. And let's pick up some burnt umber, and we'll lay this right underneath the edge of our barn eave there. And this side we'll determine will be our shadowed side, so we'll just put a little bit in here. It's not going to show up too much on that black, but we'll see it in a minute. Then I'm going to wipe that brush a little bit and then pick up some Venetian red. That's a good barn color. And let's start right here on the front and stroke down. Follow the line of your boards. These boards were nailed on up and down, so that's the way we're going to paint them. Leave some of that black showing in between there just a little bit, and that'll help your board line look. Let's put just a hint over here. Watch the corner of your building because we're going to need good sharp contrast there. Okay, we'll wipe our brush and then we'll pick up just a little bit of white and we'll stroke right up on the front of that barn. See that highlight that's going to put on there? Just a bit. That's really all we need, just something to soften it in there. Okay, let's go to just a little bit smaller flat sable now, and we've got a little bit of a window up here at the top. Most of those barns had a loft up there. We need to paint that in. That's black, and I've got just a touch of white now, and we're going to just suggest a little edge to our window. Okay, now then, we're going to clean our brush again. Well, now wait just a minute. Let's go back into that burnt umber and black here and make a little bit of a underneath the overhang of the roof area. From the angle we're seeing that barn, we'll see just a little shading there. Okay, now then, we'll go to a little larger brush and let's get a little gray blue on this roof. Now we're going to establish this picture at this point as a snow scene. So we're going to have some gray blue on that roof for shading in the snow, and then a little white, and we'll come right across the top of that roof and then pull down just very loosely to suggest the snow piled on the roof. We don't want to overwork our paint at this point because it'll just get too much all one color. Okay, now then, just a little bit of an edge right over here. That snow's piled up high on the other side. There. Okay, now let's go to a fan brush and make just a suggestion of some snow on our background trees. This is a little bit of pale blue and white. That's that same blue mix, and add some white. Load your brush on one flat side, like that, see? Okay, now with the paint up, we need to come in right on the corner and tap. Notice how this is going to throw your brighter paint right there to that edge. We want these leaves to look like they're hanging over the barn just a little bit, just like so. Now you at home will have a bit more time than we have here, and you can take a liner and go back and add more little sticks and twigs and all kinds of things in here. Just kind of let them go in and out, and they'll just look great. But we're going to leave that for you to do at home. Okay, let's go on down to our foreground. And let's take, a medium-size brush, and we'll go into that blue-gray again, and we'll establish the shading in the snow. And we're going to very quickly just brush in right here above that water. We'll brush in that shadow of the bank where it will begin to drop down toward the water. We want to show the drop with a shadow. And we've got a little bit over here behind that barn. That's the shadowed side of the barn. It's going to throw a shadow on the ground too. Okay, Then we've got another little bank here, and let's get some shading at the bottom of it. And while we're putting shadows in, let's just do it all and get some down here in the foreground too. And that way we'll have that much established. Now when you're pulling out these shadows, particularly in the shadow area, allow some of that black to work for you. Sometimes people cover their canvas with black and they're not used to that, or their saw blade or whatever they're painting on, and they think, gee, they better cover up all that black. Well, that's not the reason we put it on there. We just put it on there so you can use it. Okay, we'll just get a little bit of that in there. That should be enough, and we'll just let that sit. Now then, we need to put our white in our snow, and we'll go to a little flat brush here, and we'll take our white and pull it out, load it on one side of the brush, and come right across the background trees with your white. Now, as you move down toward your blue, we'll be working right into it there in a minute, and we want to go with the direction that that ground is sloping. Very important when you're painting ground, whether it's grass or snow or whatever it is. Back in here it's more flat, so that's the way we work our brush. Let's let that pile up under that barn just a little bit. Right in through there. Back here in the shadows. Work it in, just kind of go around the hole. A little bit of shading maybe from over here to the side. Then we've got a little more white right in here, and here is another bank, and so we've got to make a distinction there. And we'll just put that white in, and we'll brush the blue into it. There. Now then, let's let that rest just a little while. That looks good, and we'll go back to our big brush and put a little bush here. We've left an area here unpainted. So back to our dark colors, and we'll just puff that in. There, it comes out here just a little bit. Okay, now back to our fan brush. Remember, we were loading only on one side, and then turn it so your paint is up. And again, just give it a hit. Don't drop the handle down like so. Just stand it up, and that gives it a little bounce, and you can just make all kinds of bushes. Okay, let's go to our water. Get down here. We've got a little stream coming down through this field, and we always want to lay our dark in the water first. So we're going to pick up our Prussian blue and our black again. Now, right in here, right under the bank, and then pull down slightly. You won't see this too good again, but we have to have a little bit of the dark there for the moistening on the surface. And we'll just pull that down. Again, some of that dark of the saw blade can work for us. There's a little bit of a dip in your bank here. And then we will clean out our brush. Okay, now then, we're going to go to our gray-blue. Mix again, and we're going to start right in under the dark. I'm not starting in it, I'm starting just under it, and pull down, pull down. There's a tendency, especially when your banks are a little bit zigzaggy, you want to tend to follow the contour of the bank and pull this way sometimes, but we really don't want to do that because your reflections look much better if they're going down. That's the way they need to go. You want to pull that dark right into that gray blue. Now I'm kind of staying away from the middle of the water. We want that to catch some of the light from the sky. You know, water is clear and it just reflects what's around it. So this water is going to reflect what is around it. Now then, right in that middle, let's pick up some white. And I'm going to put just a speck of orange in it. This will give it just a little off-white. And then we'll start right in that center and work right over the gray-blue. But you start with heavier paint in the middle and then work out toward your other colors, and that way you're not losing those colors. When everything gets in and covered, we have a nice reflection there. We'll take our brush. Same brush is fine, or you might want to use a fan. But you want to just go wiggly, wiggly, real soft and light. If you push too hard at this point, what's going to happen is you're going to overblend your water because you will take out those downward strokes. And that way, your water begins to have a flat look, and we really don't want it to look like it's flat and hard. Just a little bit there. Okay, now we're going to let that rest a little while, and then we'll go back and do some things to that bank. But real quickly, we can get our foreground in here. We've got quite a bit of snow right here in this front section. And again, we might pick up just a touch of orange right up here to the top. That will brighten it up and put just a hint of warmth in your snow. Looks like the sun might be hitting it at that point. Okay, and again, you remember to follow the slope of the ground. Okay, there is our front end. Now let's go back and do a little bit of work to this back bank. That doesn't look real to have just a straight line. So we're going to double load our brush. Now when I double load a brush, I'm loading it on one flat side here, and then I'm turning it over and putting a little white on the other flat side. Now we're starting right at the bank and pulling toward the water. See what happens? That will pull just a bit of a little drop off down. See that? And then just blend it right there. Now anything that's down in that water needs to be flat. Remember that. Sometimes instead of doing a whole lot of little drop-offs, we don't want to lay them along just one right after the other. It looks better if you just kind of soften out that line. And just put a few little snow-covered rocks or little chunks in there. They will look very nice in your painting. And while we've got this brush in our hand, let's double load with our burnt umber this time. There's burnt umber on one side, and turn it over, and a little of the white, any kind of that dirty white's fine, on the other side. And we're going to come down on the chisel edge of the brush. Now I'm starting right there and just pulling down, and look what happens. You get a light and a dark stroke at the same time, and there comes a little fence right on down to the edge of the water. Okay, in fact, these barn lots have lots of little fences. Let's put a little old wiggly one right back here in the back. It might have lost a few rails along with the years, so we don't need to make too much perfect rails there. Let's put a little brace post there. Okay, now then, we need to work on our foreground just a little bit here, so I'm cleaning that same brush and picking up burnt umber and a little black. We're going to put a tree right here in the front. And I'm picking up just a little bit of medium at this point. I like to use a medium that is a dryer, something that will help to speed your drying of your paint a little bit, plus thin it. And we'll start right in here. You can just decide where you want to make a tree. That tree can grow anywhere. Just balance this picture off with a little tree shape right here in the foreground, and we're just going to base in that trunk. Pick up some of our background colors, and that'll help to give your tree just a little bit of highlighting anyway. There it is, just grew right there. Now then, let's clean our brush and get rid of that dark. and back to our white again and load one flat side, and I'm turning the brush so the white is against the outside edge. And I'm coming right down on the side and just establishing a nice sharp line. See how I'm just pulling that in? Okay, a little more paint, and now let's do little chopping strokes pulling over into that tree. See what that does? That gives you a little bark texture and makes it look like that the snow has stuck to that tree when it blew in the wind. Go around a few little areas and see, you've got some little holes for the squirrels to crawl in. Okay, now we better have a limb or two. And again, I'm going to double load. One flat side, like this, then turn it over and have your white on the other side. Now, to me, it's easier to start on the outside and pull in, and I'm coming down right on the bottom corner of the chisel edge. Now, see it turn? Then push harder as you get into the tree, and then just a few strokes there will blend it in. That takes just a little practice, but you can do it because it's not hard. Just start right down here and then pull in. Very easy. It helps to keep the dark side a little moist. That way your paint will slide. Where to put limbs? Big dilemma. Not really so big. You can put them anywhere. Just try to get a balanced look as you go. Just kind of balance that tree out. Doesn't have to have limbs in any certain place. These are the main limbs that we're putting on. And then we're going to take our liner and thin that paint just a bit. And let's start right here and pull out a few small twigs. Have to keep that dark pretty moist too. Okay, these are just like our other limbs. We can just let those wiggle right on out there just anywhere. Some of you may have trouble holding your hand up in the air to do this. You can always brace your hand with the end of a brush or use a maul stick. A lot of artists like to do that. Gives you a little support. And we'll just, let's put a little one down in here. He's just kind of wiggling off down here. Make your limbs bigger where they connect to the tree. Mother Nature does that, so we better too. She knows how. Let's darken that one just a little. I'll put a little wiggly limb right in through there. Okay, now then, this tree isn't going to have any leaves on it. Maybe those back in there are oak trees. They hold their leaves all winter, so they've got some leaves that are catching the snow. But this old tree here is bare. So we'll just let it sit, and we'll go back to our flat brush and double load again. And we're putting in, just an old post. It's down here in the front, and it's got a brace on it. And we've got another one over here that's leaning a little. This fence was built a long time ago, so it's not in real good shape. And part of it is down. Little snow on one side. Snowed so hard everywhere else, we'd better have some there. Just a little bit on one side of the brush. Many times people load both sides of their brushes when they only need to load one side, and then they get paint where they don't really want it to be. Okay, now we'd better plant those little posts. They're floating up in the air right now, so let's go back to our bush color, background tree color, a little Prussian blue and black again, and back to that big brush and just bounce that in, right down in the front here. Just get some real loose little bushes, some of them taller than others. Okay, that'll cover the bottom up of the tree there too. And then we'll go back to our fan brush and let's get a little snow on these bushes. No doubt it's fallen there too. Again, notice the angle of the brush. It's sideways. And we're just bouncing in real nice, loose, lacy looking little snow clusters here. Okay. Now, right in under these, let's say that we've got a little snow that's drifted, and we'll just go ahead with our fan and just kind of soften that in underneath and pull it to the side a bit. This will give us a little wind-blown look. Drift it up in there. This will also give you just a little bit of contrast in color, but it's still keeping darker colors toward the front. And you want to always pull the light into the back or middle of your painting. I think that's just about done.
Dorothy, thank you very much. That is beautiful. Didn't I tell you she was fantastic? We'll be looking forward to seeing you next week. Until then, happy painting. God bless.
Bye-bye.